boron is for your parathyroid, like iodine is for your thyroid. So in the US, especially, we deal with a lot of people who have like bone wasting disease and osteoarthritis or osteoporosis, or they have atherosclerosis, which is basically like calcification of the arteries.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it has to do with poor bone metabolization. And the reason being is because we don't have enough boron for our parathyroid. When you supply your parathyroid with enough boron, your bone metabolization is optimized. Like your body knows where to transport and deposit calcium and phosphates and things like that. Whereas if you don't have it, your body will start leaching phosphates from your bones or leaching calcium from your bones because calcium and phosphate have a 1-to-1 ratio. So the same way how you might.
All right. I got my good friend is it Giraldo or Giraldo?
Giraldo, yeah.
Giraldo, Chris Giraldo. He's into guns, fitness, business, health, esoteric truth, and crypto. Today, after having his own experience with Big Pharma, Chris is an inspiration to his followers, sharing his unique perspective during these dystopian times. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Giraldo.
Thank you.
It's been a long time coming, man.
Man.
Actually, we did an interview, but the audio was so bad that we're like, we got to do it again. We got to make sure that this is solid. So I appreciate you reconnecting with me.
No, anytime, brother. Anytime. I'm glad to be back.
Yes. So let's talk about all the stuff. I guess we can just start talking about like really how you got to this point. I think I want to share that with the audience. What was your journey? So what was your hero's journey, as I like to call it? Like, what was your red pill moment that really shifted you out of the matrix reality?
So, I mean, growing up, like I always had this entrepreneurial mindset already. So I was already like halfway out of the door in terms of being in the matrix. Same with my mom. She would always question stuff. She wasn't very mainstream narrative thinking. However, that being said, in terms of like schooling, I went to college for exercise science, physiology, and I was basically failing my anatomy classes, like getting straight up D's. And that was like a shocker to me because at least growing up, I was a straight A student until like I started getting to later in high school and I was getting into athletics, and then I started getting like some C's and B's and stuff like that. And then when I went to college, it was just like straight like D's. And then I switched to entrepreneurship because I knew I wanted to start a business. And then I dropped out after. I was like, okay, this is not teaching me because this guy doesn't even run a business. So then I got into bodybuilding. And when I got into bodybuilding, I dove in deeply into like nutrition and learning things on my own and learning about certain nutrients, stuff like that. But it was mainstream nutrition. It was the nutrition that they tell us on Google it's like this and that's it. And, in 2018, long story short, I got into, taking anabolics and doing TRT for 2 years after competing naturally because I was peer pressured by a bunch of other pro bodybuilders who was like, man, you would look phenomenal if you actually took something. And in 2018, for the first time ever, I took something to grow. Now, during that time being, I was eating like absolute garbage because I still had abs and I still looked good and everything. And from there, I ended up putting myself in the hospital because I woke up one day with a huge tumor on my face. And it was literally overnight. Like it's crazy how fast your cells can divide and stuff like that. But overnight, I woke up with a huge tumor on my face, couldn't open my mouth. I couldn't eat for like a month and a half, 2 months. And I was in and out of the hospital for almost like 4 or 5 months nonstop. And there was a point where I actually had to stay there for probably like about a month. And
Did
from
they figure out what
there,
it was?
because of that, because they couldn't
Oh,
they couldn't figure it out. So I had to get like multiple opinions, and some doctors ended up scaring the shit out of me. Like they were like, "Oh my God, you got to cut a piece off your face, and they got to put a fake jaw in there." And dude, I was like so sad. And from there, that's what got me into learning how to be healthy and stuff like that. Because before I would eat cereal, like even if I looked good, I would down a box of cereal, whatever it is. And after that humbling experience, I ended up like, okay, I'm gonna drop all this. I'm gonna drop, anabolic drugs. I'm gonna drop eating garbage, eating commercial foods, you know what I mean, pastries and all this other stuff. And I'm gonna focus on being absolutely healthy. And I went from being someone who had, obviously because I was taking exogenous testosterone, I left the hospital with an extremely low testosterone. And from there, I said, I'm not doing no drugs to recoup my testosterone. I'm going to see if I can boost it back naturally. And that sparked my journey from holistic healing. And that's basically how I got into learning about minerals, learning about micronutrient intakes, learning about all this other stuff. And at the same time, that's kind of when I stopped doing my other business, my supplement company that was selling pre-workouts and all this other stuff. And it was just like my whole identity that revolved around bodybuilding and fitness. I ended up completely changing it because I went from someone who was like 210 pounds of just straight muscle to 139. And I had to balance out with what I lost in physical with mental. So I started educating myself about holistic healing, started educating myself about, politics, the Fed, finances, the markets, everything, because I basically scrapped my entire identity that revolved just around my physical nature. And I was just kind of like, okay, I gotta balance it out or make up for it. So that's how I basically got on my journey about becoming smarter after I ended up losing everything that I was about physically.
That's amazing, because it's funny. Like, I feel like for a lot of people, they exercise and they try to get big because maybe they want to defend themselves, or it's something about like masculinity. There's something about that, embodying the masculinity and actually seeing the muscles. But would you say that you felt the same level of masculinity when you were learning about all those things? Like, did you feel the same empowered feeling?
I would say way more.
I know I didn't want to say that, but like when you're aware, it's like, oh, I feel powerful. It's like, it's not just the muscles anymore.
No, it's crazy. It's because like even the level of mental connection that I can make with people, it's totally different. Because obviously guys get in the gym at first because they're like, oh, I want to lift weights and look good, attract women, stuff like that. But it's crazy how it's like, I don't even post my fitness stuff anymore. I will later again, like just to get back into it and share that demographic, but like I don't post anything fitness related. And it's crazy because before I was like, I'm working out, hopefully women notice me. And it's like when I was super fit, posting that all the time, it was mainly attracting like there's memes on it where like the dudes would be like, oh man, you look good, how did you get like that? And women don't say anything. But like now there's a different level of respect where not just with women, but also with men. Like I could actually communicate with individuals about anything. I could communicate about politics, about religion, about finances, about science, about basically anything because I've immersed myself in all those different aspects. And that is what has allowed me to actually compensate for losing my whole physical nature in the past. And I'm actually glad that happened because I realized how one-dimensional I was. Maybe I wasn't fully one-dimensional because I was still entrepreneurial, but just having knowledge of multiple different aspects and being involved in different industries, it's such a great feeling. And I feel like that's more empowering than just being big and having muscles, to be completely honest.
100%. I agree with you 100%. Yeah, it's like girls dress up for other girls, and guys work out. They probably work out because they want to hear what the other guys are saying about their body.
That's how it is. That's so funny.
It is. I mean, and I feel like yeah, things are definitely shifting towards a more it's like embodiment of masculinity based on awareness, based on your actions, based on your reactions, the visual look of a masculinity of what we perceive it to be is not as heavy. Although I'll say this, it needs a comeback.
It does.
It needs to come back.
Aligning both of them, aligning the mental and the physical, and I feel like that's why I'm so glad I went through what I went through because like as I'm healing also, like obviously you've seen me post about like my joints and stuff like that. As I'm healing and learning about fasting and healing my body naturally, I will get back to where I was in the past and bringing the physical aspect, but with a renewed mind. And I feel like the mind renewal is the most important shift that everyone needs to experience.
100%. Oh yes, for sure. And actually, so before I ask this next question, I did have a question that I was curious about. Did they ever find out what that lump was in
Yeah,
your
so
mouth?
it's called an odontocerotis. It's called an OKC, which is odontogenic carotid cyst or something like that. And basically what it is you have a like a soft tissue cell that grows inside your bone, and the cells divide, and it like erodes your bone. So like where my
Oh,
jawbone would be here, you could kind of see it. Like I still need one more surgery. I have like a small one up here, but basically it's soft tissue that takes place of your bone in the middle and then starts growing and then it hollows out your jaw. So literally like my jaw, like even though it was there in the middle of my jaw, it was soft tissue. So if someone would have struck me in the face or whatever, my jaw would have shattered.
I was gonna
So
say if it's hollow,
yeah.
did you? So would you say what? So what really healed it? What would you say in your intuition really healed that or brought it down?
So
Oh
the
no, you did
first
surgery. You said you did surgery.
I did surgery, yeah. So
Okay,
the
okay,
first surgery,
gotcha.
what they did was the person he it was a doctor from the University of Miami, and he was like the one of the last opinions who actually made me feel good because he was super calm about it. He was like, "Oh yeah, we could fix that. Like, don't worry." The other doctors like didn't know what it was, and basically he scooped it out. He basically like enucleated it, and then he put like phosphates inside my jaw. And obviously, it's funny how I look back on it because I talk about phosphates. He put like phosphates and some like bone protein in my jaw, and it regrew the actual jaw. And I still have one small one up here. It kind of
Yeah,
makes
now
my
that you
face.
mention it, I can see a little bit of a bump there.
Yeah, yeah, like right here. That's
Yeah.
actually part of the reason why I started growing facial hair, just to like cover it
Oh,
at least until
interesting.
until at
Yeah.
least until I get that one fixed. But
Yeah.
yeah, after that, that's also when I started getting into fasting and
Mhm.
water fasting, juice fasting, things like that. And what's crazy is that I also had another one that they didn't work on that was on the front of my face. But I did like a 5-day fast, and the first time I ever did that fast, it actually ended up bursting it and draining it completely, and then it went away on its own from fasting.
That's amazing.
And I
Oh,
was like, that's wild, dude. So
how
yeah,
fast did
and
that
then after
happen? Was it immediately after the fast, or did it take a minute?
it was after the third day. So
Wow.
I went to the doctor and they were like, okay, we're gonna work on the one that's like right on the front. And because obviously I told you about the one that's up here, but here
Mhm.
this one went away. But I had one that was on the front, and they were gonna actually like do surgery, remove one of my molars, and you know how we know about like teeth, like it's connected to your brain. I didn't want that, and I fasted for 3 days. Well, I fasted for 5 days, but on the fourth day, one day I woke up and I yawned, and I don't know if it was like the pressure or something. I yawned. I was like, ugh. And then
Did you
and then I
feel?
felt I felt like some liquid in my mouth, and I started spitting it out, and then my face shrunk. It was weird.
Wow.
My face actually, like my jawline shrunk, and I was like, "Whoa!" And then after that, like I just they didn't have to do anything on the front one because I actually fasted it away. And unfortunately, the back one it hasn't worked, so I might check that out later. But but yeah, that's pretty much how it happened, and I was so fascinated by that, and I was like, dude, I'm gonna keep fasting. Who knows, maybe what else I can heal. So
Ah,
that's
yeah,
basically
right.
what happened to it.
That I mean that's
So
a great experience to know. Like, oh, it's nothing I did. It's like stopping doing things and just letting the body
yeah,
do what it needs to do. I feel like that's the majority of chronic illness is we get in the way of the body by
yeah,
either the lifestyle choices that we have or even the pharmaceuticals. It just creates more symptoms. It creates more suppression of the symptoms. Um, yeah,
yeah,
man,
and eating
that's
too much
that's
too.
that's such an important conversation because I constantly talk about without health there is no wealth, and I want to ask you this question because you were already an entrepreneur before you became aware of a lot of the health stuff. Would you say that your ability to be an entrepreneur and pivot and navigate the complexity of being an entrepreneur got better since you got healthier, or the
Yes.
same? Yeah.
I would say it's much better because honestly, I didn't know anything about like obviously you're a crypto guy. I didn't know anything about crypto or the markets or anything until after that experience. And
Oh.
because like I said, my moneymaker was my body before. It was promoting that I lift, personal training, online coaching, my supplement brand, everything like that. And then that had to shift because I couldn't market my body because I lost like 70 pounds of muscle and everything that I stood for. So I couldn't really post about that. So my money maker switched to this. And that's why I started educating myself. And then that's how I learned how to trade. I learned about crypto. I learned about how to read charts, how to do all this other stuff because I lost my main bread and butter of what my moneymaker was. And that actually made me a better entrepreneur because now when I do business or if I sell a product or sell a service to someone or whatever it is, most my mindset because I'm involved in crypto and stuff like that, most of my profits I want to invest it like
Yes.
all of it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And
Yeah.
I mentioned this in another podcast about I read the book The Richest Man of Babylon, and it
Mm.
talks about how if you want to be wealthy, you need to invest 10% of your earnings. But I invest like 60%, like all of it. Like I just pay for what I need to pay for, and the rest of it I invest all of it. And I think that has helped me become a more complex and efficient entrepreneur in that sense.
Yes. Yeah. So I see it now. I see it. So it was a little bit of like a pressure point where you needed to figure something out. But I feel like also it just probably became easier, right? As you did it because you started becoming healthier, because you started to take care of your body and wasn't
Yeah.
so pressured on that myopic view of reality. I think a lot of people are stuck in that, like you said, like a one dimension or uh, one perspective and they just don't see the opportunities and the resources and tools that we have available to us. They just get used to it, and so it's like you either need a pressure point, something to happen in your life to pivot you out of it, or you just had enough, right? And then you start to look for something different. But great journey. I mean, that's amazing. Now I know that we're going to talk about crypto. I definitely want to talk about that, but I know that you went back to supplements now, right? You or not supplements, but you're doing
Yeah, yeah.
talk about that, yeah, because I want to know a little bit more.
So it's not obviously I recently started a brand called Kylan
Mhm.
Elements. It's not really a supplement brand because I mainly just did the first two products to be a supplement because that is obviously my other business is supplement manufacturing and I have access to supplement manufacturing. Um, but it's mainly a brand revolving around the elements that make up our bodies and the earth. So it's going to be like salts, it's going to be cell salts, it's going to be,
Right.
things to season our foods with, like potassium salt. Like most people don't even know about utilizing potassium salts or magnesium salts or anything like that. So it's more so about educating the people about utilizing salts and elements that make up the earth to actually heal yourselves and basically supply the body with the electrolytes that it needs. Because I feel like nowadays what happens is we leave one matrix, the matrix of commercial bought foods and junk food, where they fortify your food for a reason because it can't be outright that they're poisoning you. So they want to keep you alive. And we leave the matrix of eating junk food and then we go to whole foods that are not properly nourished and we grow it from depleted soils. So we leave junk food and maybe we feel good on one spectrum and feel crappy on another. Then we switch to something else and then we feel better because we're eating whole food, but then we're deficient in, the
We're not
nutrients
getting
that
the
they
right
fortify.
the yeah, I've been saying that, like we're not getting the sufficient nutrients based on the environment we live in, like things
Yeah,
that we can't
exactly.
control. It's just not a good environment to be a vegan, you know.
Yeah. And that's why they fortify our junk food too. Like if you look at it, that's why sometimes you see like all these different vitamins and stuff. And the thing is too, is I feel like people they get into this habit of bad mouthing, fortification because it's quote unquote synthetic and it's not natural. But in reality, a lot of the things that they fortify junk food with, they fortify the soil with, and the
Mm.
soil it takes it from the plants, and then that's how our natural food yields that nutrient. But I feel like it's just a matter of bringing both parties together and educating people about the importance of utilizing salts and fortifying your own natural whole foods. So that's basically where I'm taking the business in the sense of educating about salts, minerals, like elements, all those different things, silica, things like that. So it's not necessarily a supplement company. It's more so like it's going to
I
start
know.
looking like a food company.
Well, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, because it's salts.
Yeah.
It's something you. It's
Yeah, it's
yeah,
going to be
yeah. That
like
makes sense.
packaged like bags and bags of powders and stuff like that. So I just came out with the first thing was supplements because it's kind of like, okay, my other business is supplement manufacturing. I could do this right away, like bam. So, but yeah, that's pretty much what it's
What
going to
was
be.
it? What was it that? So okay, so that's interesting. So what was it that you learned that was like, oh, I need to focus on electricity? You know, the body's ability to to work, to function based on the electricity of the cells. What was it that you became aware of that you decided to focus on that primarily?
I think it was my hormones coming out of the hospital in 2018. My when I had extremely low testosterone. And the thing is in the fitness and bodybuilding industry, they say that once you jump on TRT, your testosterone will never ever go back to normal, and it's impossible. And I'm someone I've always had a rebellious mindset. Obviously, the content that I post too. So I was kind of like, I think that's BS. Like, I think it is possible to naturally regenerate your testosterone to optimal levels. And I started diving into like going back to the basics because when I was younger and I used to take multivitamins and minerals, even if it was like the Flintstone stuff, you know what I mean? So I was going back to basics and I was kind of like, okay, let me see what happens if I take magnesium. Okay, let me see what happens if I take zinc. And then as I was fasting, when you fast, you deplete your body of all these minerals and everything, and you start from scratch again. You're an empty slate. So I started realizing like, okay, I fasted for 7, 8 days. I'm going to add in this mineral. I'm going to add in magnesium, see how I feel. Okay, I feel better. Now, what else do I need to add? Okay, let me try zinc. Okay, I feel better here. Oh, no, wait, I'm starting to like digress somewhere else. So over the course of like, it's what, almost 2024? Over the course of like 6 years, I've been experimenting and, getting blood work, seeing my testosterone slowly climb from 200 all the way up to like 1,000. And that's basically how I learned, just experimenting on my own body and doing research too, because as much as we can rely on examine.com and PubMed, a lot of it is also bought off, so it's just a matter of research and trial and error.
And those listening, if you really want to be an entrepreneur, it's experience. It's like
Yeah.
testing it out. It's exactly what you did is to be an entrepreneur, when you're putting yourself into the middle of the thing that you're doing and experiencing it. A lot of people don't even try to do that. They just go online, they read it, and they're like, "Oh, I guess it's not possible. Oh well," and then
Yeah.
just let it go.
Yeah,
And it's like, why
exactly.
don't you try it?
And it's also
Yeah.
it's crazy too is I think what also helps me is the spiritual aspect of it. Not to get all weird, but I'm really like not afraid to die, like at all. Like I'm not afraid of death because I know death is rebirth. So when they say like, oh, you could only take X amount of the RDAs, like you can only take whatever, and then after that you die. Like they say something like that. I'm not afraid to be like, let me try it. That's BS. Let me slowly inch my way higher than the RDA and see how that affects my body. And that's how I start learning things. And because I'm really not afraid to die. Obviously, you want to do it from an education, like from an educated standpoint. You don't want to just be dumb and do something that can harm your body. But that's how I learn things too. Like even, for example, like the borax conspiracy. That's how I was able
Mm.
to regenerate my testosterone all the way from 200 all the way up to high 900s, even low 1000s, because I learned about consuming borax, which is
Can you talk
basically
about that?
boron.
What is the conspiracy around borax exactly?
So there was there's actually a blog online called the Borax Conspiracy. It's a very long article, surprisingly, and basically borax is a salt. It's literally just sodium borate. It's made of sodium, boron, and oxygen. Right? It's only three ingredients, but for some reason they sell borax as like laundry detergent, and when in reality it's literally just boron salt because it's alkaline, and when it's alkaline, it helps make things cleaner, and you know what I mean. So the idea behind it is that they basically wanted to label borax as like a laundry or cleaner detergent because they realized
Oh,
it had benefits for arthritis, and it also had benefits for improving testosterone. So they wanted to completely repackage it, and the commissioner, the primary commissioner, it's on my highlights. The primary commissioner of the FDA was actually the first person to ban borax as a food additive because he said it's not safe. But you know that he's the commissioner of the FDA and they approve
Yeah.
other things that are not safe. So I basically went down that whole rabbit hole learning about borax, and the reason why I learned is because somebody that I knew in high school, he sent me a story of like a Russian power lifter or something like that. And you know Russians, those guys are pretty wild. But he sent me
Yeah.
a story of a Russian power lifter, and he was like, "Yo, this guy consumes borax, which is like a laundry detergent. What do you think about it?" And I was like, "What?" And I just like did research. I was looking at his stuff, and I was kind of like researching. And the more he would speak about it, I was having like an epiphany. I was like, holy shit! Like, yeah, borax is literally just three ingredients. It's sodium, boron, and oxygen. Like, it's not anything, and we're all depleted in boron, and we're deficient. And then I started trying it, and then when I was trying it, instantly I felt way better. Like, I was like, let me try taking borax, and then I felt immediately better. I literally felt my testosterone like skyrocketing, and from
I
there,
have some. I think I'm gonna try this, man, because I bought some and I'm like I'm gonna test it out, but it's in the cabinet.
Oh no, dude, your joints and everything. Boron is for your parathyroid, like iodine is for your thyroid. So without
Oh.
boron, we don't have
Wait, can you say that
proper
again?
bone metabolism.
Say that again. I'm gonna write it down.
Boron is for your parathyroid, like iodine is for your thyroid. So in the US, especially, we deal with a lot of people who have like bone wasting disease and like osteoarthritis or osteoporosis, or they have atherosclerosis, which is basically like calcification of the arteries.
Hmm.
And yeah, a lot of it has to do with poor bone metabolization. And the reason being is because we don't have enough boron for our parathyroid. When you supply your parathyroid with enough boron, your bone metabolization is optimized. Like your body knows where to transport and deposit calcium and phosphates and things like that. Whereas if you don't have it, your body will start leaching phosphates from your bones or leaching calcium from your bones because calcium and phosphate have a 1-to-1 ratio. So the same way how you might come across posts online where people are saying like, "Oh my God, calcium is deadly. Don't supplement calcium." It's because they're phosphate deficient or because they're boron deficient. So once you have enough boron in your body metabolizes calcium, so it doesn't get deposited in your arteries. So that's like
Wow.
one of the main
Yeah.
things. That's why in the US, we have an epidemic of people with cardiovascular disease and people who have bone wasting disease because their bone metabolism is not optimized. And it's all mainly because of boron. And that's why they label it as like, you see people gatekeeping, like, oh, borax is bad for you because it is the most potent form of boron that we have to offer.
Man, I mean, this reminds me of like these last 2 or 3 years. I saw it happen in real time where Trump talked about what was it called? Hydroxychloroquine, I think it was called, right? Yeah, hydroxychloroquine.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're like, you're drinking chlorine, you're drinking Clorox. Like, what are
Yeah.
you doing? Don't drink Clorox. And it's like, oh no, it's like just because it's in the word doesn't mean that that's what it is. Um,
Yeah, exactly. That's generally how it is too. Like borax, it's
like
borax. It's
ivermectin.
kind of
Is a horse pill. It's like, man, we've been
yeah,
using ivermectin in people for decades.
exactly. And that's the thing too. Like people are chemically illiterate because like if I were to package pink salt, like pink Himalayan salt, and then call it natural dishwasher, and I spent billions of dollars to market it, people would actually consider pink salt as natural dishwasher. And that's exactly what they managed to do with borax, when borax is literally boron salt. If you look at most of the boron supplements online, they serve it at 3 milligrams a capsule,
Mm.
which is like very low dose. But borax, it's 11% boron. So if you have 1 gram of borax, that's 110 milligrams of boron. That is
Wow.
the most potent form of boron that this earth has to offer,
Would
and
you
it's
say that
natural.
it's a faster way to get minerals and to like turn on the electricity in your body more than like potassium
Yes.
salt or something?
Yeah. No. Well, I feel boron is just one of many salts. So they have
Right.
like
Yeah, yeah.
they have different salts like potassium sulfate, potassium phosphate. Those are considered cell salts. But the electricity in our body does run off of electrolytes. That's why they're called electrolytes. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like that experiment of, I was actually going to post a video on this, of the bowl of water with distilled water, and there's two cables running into it, and the electricity doesn't turn on this light bulb. There's a light bulb on one side, and then there's a power supply on the left. And the only way that the electrical current will flow to the light bulb is if you add salt.
Yeah.
So if you have distilled water, it doesn't turn
on.
It's not
on,
much,
right? It's like a pinch of salt. You need a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like our bodies. Our bodies, we need electrolytes and salt in order for the electricity to function through our brain and our eyes and all our physiological functions. So that's the important of it. And you know, back to the entirety of the point of you asking me about the brand, it's about emphasizing on the elements that electrify our body. You know what I mean?
Going back to the root, the fundamentals. I love that.
Exactly.
I love that. So let's talk a little bit just about this last couple of years and where we're at now. A lot has changed, you know, so much has changed in my opinion. And it's you either became either deeper into the fear and like, plug me in, daddy government, or, you know, woke up, started seeing the reality, what was happening around us. And even some started speaking out. Not many. I would say 1% woke up, and then like 0.01, even less than that, started talking about it. What would you say was it for you? Like, why did you decide to really start speaking out about this stuff?
Man, that's a tough one. I honestly don't even remember how well, I do know what woke me up to it. It's just very controversial, and I don't want it. That's like a whole other podcast, so I don't want to go off on a tangent. But basically, I went through like a breakup, and I had a friend during the time that I went through a breakup who was telling me, he was telling me like a joke about, even people watching this podcast, if they don't believe it, this is how I woke up. Okay, so you don't have to believe this. I had a friend during the time after my breakup. He was joking around with me, telling me some random BS about like, oh, he's like, oh, the earth is flat, space is fake, the earth is flat. But he doesn't actually believe it. He was just saying it. And from there, I was just kind of like, all right, yeah, whatever, bro. Like, shut up. Like, I didn't really care. And obviously, because I just got out of a relationship, I had so much free time on my hands. And I started going down that rabbit hole of like researching it, right? And as I was researching it, I started realizing there's a lot of there's a lot of like there's a lot of contrary like scientific evidence of like NASA and space and like a lot of fishy stuff. And I started realizing that a lot of the stuff that they share as objective truth is actually all pseudoscience and theory, and it's made up. And from there,
that's like gravity, you mean?
Yes. When in reality,
theory of gravity.
Yeah, the theory of gravity, or Darwin's theory of evolution. Like, it's all theory. The Big Bang theory. It's just all theory. So that is what woke me up into like, okay, if our science is wrong, then that means like the stuff we know about health is wrong, because all of our health information is backed by science, right? So that's kind of what woke me up into it. Like that, it completely like shattered my reality of the whole Big Bang theory, space. We came from monkeys, BS, garbage, when we're actually divine beings. And from there, it just spiraled into me learning the corruption of everything. It was like the universal key to unlocking every other rabbit hole that could possibly exist, and that's how I learned.
And then you felt, and then you felt like a burn. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, what were you saying?
No, I was gonna say, and then you felt like a burning sensation to just speak out about it. Like, was your throat itching?
Yeah. No, I just spoke out about it because I was like, whatever, and I felt like it is life-changing information, because a lot of the stuff they tell us about health, if you realize, this is like why people don't understand. If you realize that everything they tell you about the sun and the moon and the earth that you live on and the divinity of your body, if you realize that all the space nonsensical BS that they tell you is complete garbage, if you realize that science is wrong, then you question every other science. You question how they treat disease. You question how they treat cancer. You question, how to optimize your health and your body, how to extend longevity. You question everything. So once you put this science into question, then it opens you up to actually learning the truth about real science. And that's what sparked my enlightenment of everything. You know what I mean?
100%, man. I've gone back and forth myself with flat Earth. And this is what okay, so I've learned, at least from my own journey, that usually the truth is in the middle. Like the division, the goal of division is always like at the forefront for these systems.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you have this duality of like, oh, you're either a globalist or you're a flat earther. And it's like, okay, well, what's the middle ground? And so my perspective, yeah. So here's my perspective.
It's a ball and it's flat in the middle.
Oh, that's interesting. Wait,
like a snow globe.
Okay. Well, what about space? What's space then?
That's the thing. Honestly, like that's where I stop, right? So like when I say flat Earth, I don't mean like a disc floating through space. I just know to my current experience, because I can't go off on a limb and make up theory, because then I'm just doing what the people that I like obviously refute. Like I'm doing what they're doing. Still, right?
I mean, it's your perspective. You know, like we're talking here in perspective. It's like whatever you believe. Exactly. So if that's what you believe, I just go off my experience. I know that I'm not spinning, and I know that I'm on a flat surface, right? So I know that even with science, like if you drive thousands of miles, you're still going to be on a flat surface. That's all I know. I don't know what's the end of the Earth. Obviously, I know about the Antarctic wall and everything like that, but at the end of the day, I've never been to the Antarctic wall, so that's still theory. So I do know that, like you said, there's some half truth there, but I kind of stopped going down that rabbit hole, because then it started turning into like flat earthers start turning into the same theorist that the globe people are. I know, right? It's extremes, right? It happened. It's even happening right now with this freedom movement, with people, going into the complete extreme duality of what the systems are, and it's like, wait, you can't just negate reality. You can't just go live in the jungle. I mean, you can cut away from society and do that, but I don't want to do that. I want to find the middle ground. But for me, it's mega Earth.
I believe that too. That's the thing. Like
where space is like, it's a density issue. So it's not gravity, right? It's a theory of gravity, but there's the law of density, and so it's a density thing. Once you go up high enough, it starts to get into a frequency that you have to have the right ship to like enter it. You can't just like go into space. So I think the firmament, the thing that they talk about in the Bible, it's all frequency stuff, density frequency stuff that suppresses the less dense, basically. Like
the metaphorical aspect of leaving the physical third dimensional body behind, and the frequency is higher. You know what I mean? That's also partially like that's kind of like what I believe also, because it is all density. Like why if you get a balloon and you fill it with helium, why does it float? Because it's anti-gravity? Like that doesn't exist. That doesn't even make sense. It's because of the density. Helium is lighter.
Just that alone is a huge conflict for most, where they can't. It's such a cognitive dissonance, because like, oh no, it's helium, it's going up, and it's like, but what about gravity? Should pull down everything, no matter what. So what is making that thing go up? Oh, it's less dense in the air. Well, then that's provable. There's your proof.
Exactly. And it's so self-explanatory, but I guess it's not.
Oh
but
man,
that's pretty much that. That's how I learned the corruption of everything. Just going down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And if you have the discernment to go down that rabbit hole, you have the discernment for everything.
Oof, that's a great thing to say, because it's like it's such a out there perspective that if you can open your mind to something so out there, then yes, it's a little easier to see what's right in front of you. The fakeness or the inversion of what's right in front of you. Would you say that we're living in a modernized Babylon? Like we're in this?
For sure.
Because it feels in Babylon, Babel, the Tower of Babel, they were trying to unify language. They were trying to create a one world thing, where everybody's unified. Do you think that that's a similar path that's happening right now on a global scale?
I think like I in a video I posted, I think we're living in a two-part split reality, where there's an exoteric interpretation and an esoteric interpretation. So I think on the exoteric realm of the unified language, if you think about it, English it's the language of Babylon. And at the same time, everywhere around the world, people are starting to speak English, and the US dollar is traded in almost every single country. And if you don't trade with the US dollar, what happens? We invade you, and we make up some BS war, and then bam. But then on the esoteric standpoint, the universal language of everyone realizing that all is one, and you know, we're all one, and we all share the same universal divinity. That is the language. You know what I mean? So I think there's like a split of interpretation where you have people who woke up to like the spiritual message, and then you have the other people who are just taking everything literally, like, oh my God, you know, dystopian, like all this stuff is coming, when in reality, I feel like things are getting kind of better. I feel like,
It's a perspective. Yeah.
I feel like you're metaphorically like floating away from this third dimensional, and I hate to sound like new age because that's also in itself of its own little thing, but I feel like mentally you're just slowly shifting away from that. And
you know, there's actually science. There's science behind this. So do you know?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Do you know Dr. Bruce Lipton?
No, I do not.
So he talks about, he's a genius. He was one of the people that kind of spoke out about everything that was happening with the viruses, because he did a lot of work around cells and how cells work. And he talks about the electricity in the body, and how we're, you know, exactly what we just discussed, by the way, like all about the electricity and how we need that. But he talks about the frequency of our cells and the emotional and energetic impact that what we're embodying has on ourselves. It's not just what we're eating. Obviously, that's a huge impact. It'll calcify. It'll make it, you know, impermeable to oxygen and all this stuff. But he said that there's a higher impact on your emotional and energetic state. So it's like, you know, the things, how we feel in our bodies, and like even our environments, like what we're absorbing. So like EMF, you know, that will have an impact on the cells. So he was telling me, I met him at a biohacking conference. 1 year, I think it was like 2018. Yeah, it was really cool. Got to meet a lot of people before they started really speaking out about all this stuff. Yeah. So when they started speaking out, they got really famous. But he talked to me about, this was like a group discussion, and he was just answering questions. And he said that as you heal your body, as you align yourself, so as you heal yourself physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, you start to align. And your cells start to, you know, your body starts to detox. You start to like let go. There's a lot of letting go that happens, and a lot of energy that's stored in our fascial system, in our cells, gets released. And because of that release, the frequency of the cells increase. So they literally increase. Yeah, you actually have like it's like tuning up, right? And so his theory, this is a theory, but he's like, I really believe this, is that we will be essentially, as you heal yourself and as you grow, you essentially become sort of invisible to those at lower density. So those that are practicing the lower density practices and consuming and just slowing down their cells, they're going to be in their own like reality, seeing what they can see, and we'll be able to see them, but they won't see us. Like when I say see, it's like not visually see. It's like, if it's like a consciousness scene. So like, if you're not consciously seeing them, you're not going to visually see it. You're just not going to visually see the people.
No, I agree 100%. That's literally how I feel. I feel like it's about like I said, I feel like things are getting better. And as you heal yourself and you detox and you clear your mind and you start looking at the world for what it is, and you unplug from all the propaganda, I feel like things are actually getting a lot better, and people are panicky and they're fear mongering and saying, "Oh my God, this is getting worse." But I think things are getting better.
That's the lower density people. They're freaking out because that's all they're seeing is the death and destruction.
Even people with a lot of followers, and it bothers me because
that's why it's a density thing. It's not like a health thing. It's an awareness thing, and awareness.
It's how they get views.
Yeah.
So people want to like share like low density stuff because it gets a lot of traction and views, but you're just feeding into that. So it's like I do feel like the whole thing about like, oh, you're gonna own nothing and be happy. I think you saw my video how I shared like owning nothing and being happy is like you technically don't want to own anything. Right? Like if you don't own anything, you can't get taxed, right? And it's kind of I know. I look at it. I'm so happy you said that because a lot of people don't know the second
thing that Charles Schwab said, or no, this was who said that? Was that Schwab that said that?
Yeah, it was Schwab.
It was Schwab, right? He also said the key to success is to own nothing but control everything.
Yeah.
And so it's like one is for the people that to hook them into the duality of owning nothing. But yeah, there's a whole different way to look at it.
Yeah.
Strategy, man. Like it's like as we become healthier, you become more aware, and then you can start to look at different facets of facts. You know, there's universal truths. Those are the facts, like law of density, law of conservation, law of reciprocity. You have a lot of laws. They're laws because it's common sense. You can practice them. And then, and just becoming aware of them enough so that you can start to, be in that space. But yeah, let's keep talking here. This is great stuff. What would you say?
Niacin, by the way.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that for a second. Niacin. So niacin is a B12 supplement, right?
It's B3. It's vitamin B3.
B3, right.
Yeah,
it's a
B supplement. There's 2 kinds. There's niacinamide and there's nicotinic acid.
So when I take niacin, I have the niacin flush, and
yes.
Ashley always, my partner, she always tells me, like, eat something before you take it because you won't feel good. And so a few times I took it without eating, and I'll get the red face and I feel like this burning sensation in my body. I like it. Yeah. I like the feeling.
Yeah, it feels good.
But what do you feel about that? How do you feel about niacin?
I think it's a good thing because it also indicates where blood flow is lacking. Because when I first started taking niacin, I would get patchy red marks. Like even on my face, like I would be red some places and then like the other places won't be red, which indicates like your capillaries are not expanding and letting blood flow through. So when I was actually taking niacin and getting that flush, it shows an indication physically on your body where you're lacking blood flow and where you aren't. And then as the more I started taking niacin, because I would take like a gram or 2 a day, I would take like 400 or 500 milligram tabs. And the more I started taking niacin, the more I started seeing those empty spots fill out. And then my blood flow started correcting.
That's amazing. So you're saying that that makes sense to me because every time I've done it, I feel like my skin looks better after it. It feels and looks smoother or like
flushing to like the surface of your skin.
Yeah. Like I'll get, sometimes if I eat sugar, I'll get like a little bit of a reaction right here, and then I'll take niacin and literally the next day it's gone completely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's because I think it's like important in general. Like we've been talking a lot about supplements here and like what to take. If you're not testing, you're guessing. Okay.
Yeah.
All these things that we're talking about, we're taking it because we did the test. We tested ourselves and saw what the deficiency was. Maybe you're not deficient in it and you take it and it does creates a symptom because you got too much of it. So just be aware, just do the testing first. And this is not medical advice.
Not medical advice.
Not medical advice. All right. So just to keep it talking here, what would you say are some biohacks that you do for yourself? Like what do you say that you do to support your body?
I fortify my food. It's lagging?
What do you mean by that? Fortified your food.
So it sounds crazy, but I said this to somebody else who was asking me that. But I like, for example, if I were to eat, let's say white rice has no nutrients in it at all. But let's say sometimes, it's easy carbon molecules, carbohydrates. So if I were to eat white rice, I would salt the water with, like unrefined sea salt. I'll put potassium chloride, which is potassium salt, and then sometimes magnesium chloride, which is magnesium salt. So, and then I'll add silica too, right? So instead of just doing rice and water and then cooking it, I would put all this salt in the water, stir it. So obviously all the salts, they break apart in the water and the ions actually get absorbed in the rice. And then my rice is actually nutritious, right? Or I do that with mashed potatoes too. Like if I were to make potatoes, I'll oven bake it. And even if my potatoes are said to have potassium, I don't trust man, right? So even if the label says 620 milligrams of potassium per serving, I don't trust that. So I actually put potassium in my mashed potatoes and then I mash it, and then bam. Because the thing is with the actual salt, it's like you go full circle. You go from supplements are good for you. You should get all your nutrients from food, and then you realize our food is depleted. Supplements are good for you. So, so what I did is I fortify my food in the sense of knowing that if I get potassium salt, I can send it off to a lab and test it to verify that it is actually that amount of potassium, right? Now, if I just put faith in a food source and they say this is what the food has, I don't know that for myself, right? But if I were to fortify my food, I know that I'm putting potassium in my food or salt in my sodium or magnesium or whatever it is. So that's basically like one of those things that I've been doing. And I've gotten really good results from it. Like just fortifying my rice, it's game changer because rice is something that is very easy for me to eat. And I can get a lot of my nutrients like that instead of putting it in water and drinking it, which can cause an upset stomach if you do that too much. So,
that's good to know.
Yeah,
that's a great idea. That's a genius idea. I never even thought about doing that. I add salt to my water. I use distilled water when I cook, and now I know what I'm putting in and I know what it has. But I didn't think about adding like magnesium, silica. Do you add borax to it as well?
No, because I take it like as a supplement, and also my product. Once I restock, I'll send you one. It sold out. It sold out way too fast. I was like, I have some bottles that I want to send to some friends, and then it's like, and then it's like, oh shit, I sold out. Yeah, literally before I even like set them aside. So, I don't. You can because it's sodium and then it's borate, so it would just the ions would separate, and in the water, I don't know if the rice would taste good though.
Yeah,
so
probably.
That's the only thing.
Yeah.
So because borax does not taste good at all. It's very alkaline.
Is it like potassium? I was gonna say potassium. It tastes like sweaty socks, or maybe I'm gonna say it tastes like sweaty socks, but like seawater. It was like dipped in seawater.
Yeah. Yeah, potassium does not taste that good. So what I do is I do like 2-to-1 potassium. Like for example, yesterday I made rice and I did like 3 cups of jasmine rice, and I did like 2 teaspoons of potassium salt and then 1 teaspoon of regular salt. And then like I mixed it with like an avocado and stuff. So like the taste it didn't really taste that bad. But yeah, generally potassium salt, it has like it doesn't taste bad, but it doesn't taste good. It has like a weird bland electric taste to it. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean.
I took it the other, man, it's amazing how it works. Cause I was at my friend's house. We were outside. I'm here in Phoenix. It's a little cold now. Well, a little cold. It's like 45, 50 degrees. But I wasn't cold. I had my jacket on. I was not cold, but I was shivering. And I'm like, why am I shivering right now? And I had just eaten, so I was really confused. And then my friend was like, oh, just take this cup of potassium salt. And I drank it. And within 30 seconds of drinking it, like my body just calmed down and stopped shivering. It just warmed up.
Yeah. That's probably why, because potassium, it shifts the electrolyte balance and it pulls fluid into your muscles. So then your muscles, so like if you have more potassium than you have salt, your fluid balance goes from like all your water retention goes into your muscles, and then your muscles get warm because it holds more blood. So that's probably why. So even though it wasn't necessarily cold outside, your fluid balance is probably off. And then once you took potassium, you got warm from your own muscles.
It was amazing. Oh my gosh. It's funny because like once you really get in tune with the body and you really start to do those practices, you can test it out and you can feel like, oh, that definitely is what it is that made the impact, because I wasn't doing anything else. Yeah, man, it's nuts. All right, so now let's talk about crypto here. I want to pick your brain a little bit about crypto. So I believe this last couple years, or this last year, really shifted a lot of things in the crypto space, where people are now becoming a little bit more aware of what decentralization is versus centralization. And now we're in this little bit of a bull run right now. All the new people that came in the last couple of years are like, this is it. We're in it. And I've been through, this is my third run. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't think so.
Bear market rally.
So what's your perspective right now with everything that's happening? Bitcoin's at 43,000 today.
I personally think that this is, I think this is like the second to last, because honestly, by 2030, I do believe we're going to have a $1 million Bitcoin. No doubt. I know for a fact by 2030, because that's, that's from my perspective of knowing about, rabbit holes and stuff. By 2030, we're going to be digital, like completely. But I think right now we're not in a bull run. I think we're in a giant bear market rally, because if you actually zoom out and you look at the macro levels, like everyone's looking at the chart from like 2021 and on, and then they're like bull run, but they're not zooming all the way out. Were from like 2013, 2014, where you have some trend lines that are pointing, like you have lows from 2013 and 2014 pointing at like a 9K bottom in 2024.
Easily.
Right. And you have the tops of the 2021 tops pointing at, a 9K bottom. Like when you actually zoom out of the big picture. And I feel like right now that everyone's getting woken up and everyone's learning about, financial stability and becoming financially free. It's one of those things where it's kind of like a trap also, because people are just starting to wake up to, I want to invest in crypto, but then they're waking up in this bear market rally and they might FOMO into this green candle going up and then bam, rug pull. You know what I mean? And then like after the rug pull, they're kind of like, oh, this is a scam, and they drop it. So I feel like it's important that now people start learning about crypto and the decentralized space, but they don't let emotions take over and let them FOMO into stuff and listening to, most of the YouTubers. Because if you go on YouTube, everyone is like, this is the bull run. This is it. We're going to 200K. And it's like, I don't know about that. I've heard people say like, oh, the institutions, they're going to have to buy higher. And it's like, come on, dude. Like
that's never going to happen, bro. They've already bought.
Like we're not in control of the price. They are. So they're going to take it down lower.
Yeah. What's the one thing that you say you saw that you're like, this is different, we're still going to get a pullback? Like what would you say that you saw that is different than what everybody else is seeing?
We're basically going up on declining volume, which shows that's never a good sign. So and then at the same time, if you look at the overall liquidity of the market, it's going down. Yeah. So liquidity is going down, volume's going down, but the price is going up. And that's usually never a good sign. That's market manipulation. And then that's also retail investors piling in. They're pushing the price up with lower volume, which means all the institutions are sitting out. And they're probably going to sell that green candle once it hits a certain point. So that's just something that I learned. And then that's also, zooming all the way out, seeing the bigger picture. Like I always say, like with everything else that I've learned in conspiracy stuff, if you zoom all the way out and you look at the chart from when did it come out? Like 2009, Bitcoin came out in 2009, right? I think it was like right after.
Yeah, it wasn't listed though. I think they started trading it. It was probably even 2010, end of 2009, 2010.
Yeah, something like that. If you look at the chart from 2010 all the way till now, and people actually did like TA on that chart, zoomed all the way out instead of looking at 2021 and on, like you would get a totally different, perspective on how things are going to go. And same with everything going on. Like right now, we have an energy crisis. We're in war. We have recession coming. We have all these different things that can easily cause a black swan event where everything just comes crashing down and then bam, everyone gives up on crypto. It's a scam. And then only the smart ones buy at the bottom. And I think that's how it's going to play out.
Now, here's my question to you. Okay, so here's a second question. What is your opinion on the US dollar? Like, what do you think is coming for the US dollar? Because so far, so in 2020, there was a 35% increase in the national debt. They printed $6 trillion overnight. In July, they raised the debt ceiling indefinite, like to any amount, basically for the next 2 years, so they can print as much money as they want. They've been printing an average of half a trillion to $1 trillion a month right now in the last 5-6 months. Crazy. So what's your opinion first on the U.S. dollar? And okay, well, answer that question first. What's your opinion on the U.S. dollar?
I think right now, like, just holding cash, just for the sake of holding cash, I think cash is trash right now. I think unless you're, here's the thing. It obviously I know like inflation is occurring, and I know that the value of the dollar is just straight going, like it's literally like plummeting so fast. The only thing is that I'm also not going to say put your money in crypto and like risk assets, because they're also manipulating that too. So me personally, because I feel like in 2030 everyone's going to be buying stuff with USDT. You know, history repeats. I feel like USDT is the Fed on crypto. They print infinite USDT, right? So I feel like what's going to happen is in 2030, people.
That's
are
an
going to
interesting
start.
perspective. Wait. That's an interesting perspective, because I recently shifted my perspective on that as well. Because like they're talking about CBDCs. No, we're going to push CBDCs, and everybody's like, no, we're going to stop it. We're going to stop it. And like they've already been doing it for 10 years with USDT.
Yeah,
That's what I put. Yeah.
yeah, and I actually think, you know how people are like, oh, USDT, it's going to depeg and yada yada. I think history just keeps repeating, and I think that USDT is the new Fed. And I think that in 2030, what's going to happen is all of our money is going to shift to like USDT or USDC. And then because they also have Euro Tether. They have Euro Tether, they have Yen Tether, they have all these digital currencies for different countries. So I think what's going to happen is our dollar is going to go to trash. It's not going to be worth anything. And then they're going to somehow make everyone shift into using USDT. And then people like us, I'm holding USDT so I could put it into assets that are on the bottom, but I'm not holding like actual cash. You know what I mean? Right. So I think that's just, it's one of those things where our dollar's going to shit, and then in reality, it's better to hold the digital dollar, even though we already have digital dollars. But I'm just holding my money.
So would you say that, like, why are we still pricing things in dollars then? Like, why is everybody still focused on the dollar price of Bitcoin if you think that it's gonna go to shit anyway? You know what I'm saying? Like, why are we equating the value of Bitcoin on something that is imploding in a lot of ways?
You know, that's a really good question. I have no idea. It's like
I'm just asking because
unless,
like, you know,
unless hyperinflation occurs, and then next thing you know, we're buying $30 water bottles in like 10 years.
That's what I'm saying.
You know what's crazy?
Like,
you know what's an interesting perspective? An interesting perspective is that I also used to play video games growing up, and I've played a lot of games that were quote unquote in the future. And a lot of the currencies traded in the games, they would call it credits, right? In the games,
it's never the dollar.
Like I played like a bunch of futuristic games like Deus Ex. That was like in 2050. Like it was literally like the time frames. It's like 30, 40 years from now. And a lot of the prices of stuff in the games, like whenever you buy stuff, like in those RPG games, it was like 2,000 credits for like a food item, or like 3,000 credits for like, I don't know, like a bottle of medicine or something like that. So maybe that's like predictive programming, where like in the future we start seeing like a $1,000 a box of cereal or something like that, and then it just like our perspective of pricing changes. Because
that's what I'm saying. Like, go ahead.
Didn't it used to be like 25 cents?
Coffee?
Like many years ago? Yeah, like a cup of coffee was like 25 cents in like the 50s. And then now Starbucks is like $3.50.
I mean, I remember early 2000s buying a cup of coffee for 75 cents, maybe 50 cents.
Yeah, and then now it's like almost $4.
Yeah.
So maybe it's like that, but maybe it's going to just happen on a bigger scale, you know what I mean? Like the value of the dollar goes so down that the price of everything just goes so up.
Well, I asked this question because, you know, when we start to, this is something I teach for my students in my community, in my academy. It's really all about, it's two things. It's what we identify with and where our self-worth lies. So if our self-worth is inside our bodies and we identify with the physical body, everything outside of us just becomes a tool. It becomes just like something we can manipulate and play with. When we externalize our worth and or identify with the system, or identify with like a legal digital version of ourselves that's not this, then yes, then we have to look at something to determine value. We have to see something to determine value, and what we all agree on is the dollar. So I'm now questioning people when we talk about crypto. I'm like, why are we still giving value to this thing with the dollar when we see that the system is imploding and they're scrambling right now, trying to keep it alive? So it's almost like we have to like practice looking at things differently, and like what is worth, what is value, who determines
Yeah, because
that.
it's like monopoly money at this point.
It's 90. So there was a Procter Gamble, I think it's his name. No, wait, what's his
Yeah,
name?
Procter and Gamble, I think.
It's Procter Gamble, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
He did a video, maybe 95, 96, something like that. It was a it was a show on TV, and he was talking about the Fed and how it works. And he said, "Oh, right now, when you deposit $100, $90 gets that you deposit $90. They only have to keep 10% there. $90 gets fractionalized and gets loaned out again.
Yeah.
Today, it's zero. They don't need to keep anything in the bank. It's not 10% anymore. It's zero. And the amount of money that they're fractionalizing is 100%. So it's not, things have changed dramatically. So that means that the dollar that we're using today is worth 99% or more or less than what it was originally. It's not 90% anymore. It's like way less.
Yeah, even when you go into banks now, they don't have like security guards or anything.
There's no bankers in there. There's no money. There's nothing in there.
They seem empty too. Like the banks, just like when you go in, like back in the day, banks were like cool to go in. Like you know what I mean? Like it was like old school banks. They were like, you could tell there's money in that bank. Or if there's no money, there's at least gold. There's something, right? Whereas like now you go into a bank, it's like an empty building and just like people sitting at desks.
Dude, I remember when I was a kid, my dad took me to a bank and they had the vault open. And I was like looking at it. I was like probably 10 years old. And the person there was like, "You want to go see inside the vault?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I walked in there. It was like gold bars and mountains of cash. And I'm like, "Wow, this is real." But yeah, now it's like everything's digital.
Now it's like probably a piece of paper. It's like a piece of paper inside of a locker or something. Like that's the bank.
It's a treasure.
Yeah,
a treasure.
It's like some promissory note of something. Like this bank owns whatever. I don't know. But yeah, I feel like cash. The value of cash is just straight up. It's just we're giving it belief. We're just holding it up with our belief.
So, what would you recommend for everyone that has money in the bank, or they have wealth that they're trying to protect, or they're trying to create even maybe true generational wealth? What does that look like? What's your suggestion usually?
I mean, I wouldn't, not financial advice, but I would probably just say educate yourself on various different financial markets, whether it be like real estate or stocks or crypto or whatever it is. Me personally, I truthfully am 95% sure that everything's going to go to crypto. They're even tokenizing stocks. So if they're tokenizing stocks to be used on
commodities too, gold, silver.
Yeah, you could buy gold on Coinbase, or not on Coinbase. There's another exchange that trades like Bitcoin and Ethereum and stuff, and you can buy gold there. You can even buy platinum.
I think I know what you're talking about. You can buy what?
Yeah, so you could buy platinum and gold and silver and stuff like that. So like the fact that you can buy those commodities, it's crazy. And I feel like just if people want generational wealth, they should educate themselves on the coming system. Because right now it's kind of like if we were to, the time we're living in right now is kind of like if we were in like the 90s or something, and they're kind of like, okay, there's an Amazon IPO coming out or something like that. And then, we could buy Amazon at like a penny. You know what I'm saying? So right now, instead of everyone thinking that things are getting worse, they should educate themselves because they can make a decision that will change generations upon generations in terms of finances.
For sure. Okay, I want to do like two just rapid questions here. What is your belief about death? Like after you die, I know you said that, you mentioned a little bit in the beginning that you're not afraid of death. So what is there for you?
I think this sounds very redundant and crazy, but I think that everything is one, and like I'm another version of you and you're another version of me. And I feel like when you die, you wake up in somebody else's body.
Like, you ever heard of the egg theory? Sorry, keep going with your perspective.
I think it's the egg theory. Like I think some people think that we die and then we go to like a different dimension. Like, yeah, I can I'm like in the middle ground there, because to me, I feel like it doesn't make sense that we die and go somewhere else and we still live as our ego. I think the whole idea is we're supposed to enlighten, like in this body, in this avatar, Chris, I am supposed to awaken to the truth. And then once and spread my truth to people so they can find the power within themselves too. And then once I die, they probably put me in somebody with lower vibration because that's my innate thing. And I'm supposed to wake that person up. And then
that's
after they wake
interesting.
that person up, you die and they put you in somebody else again. You know what I mean? Because I feel like, think of it from a physics standpoint, right? Like if there's two cups of water and this one doesn't have a lot of water and this one's connected to this one, you know, you have one that's filled and then you have one that's empty. If you connect them together, this water flows into this one, right? So I feel like all that energy and electricity that, let's say, an enlightened individual has, once you die, all that energy flows into, let's say, a less fortunate family. Let's say you're born as a different kid that comes from a low vibrational family and you're called to change that generational curse. And I think that's how it is.
Wow. So I never thought about it like that.
Wrong. I can be totally wrong, but
your perspective is awesome because you see. Say that again?
I think of it like a scientific standpoint too, like as above, so below, as within, so without. So like that's how nature works, where like things of high pressure flow into low pressure, things of high volume flow into low volume. Mm-hmm. Like same in crypto, like how money flows, like high market cap flows into small cap coins. Why isn't it the same with energy? Like you would think that like vibrational beings, high vibrational beings, you die and then your energy flows into, let's say, not necessarily a low vibrational person, but let's say you're born of a low vibrational person, but that energy is instilled within that low vibrational child that is born, and then you change it. You change the whole generation.
It's a frequency, right? You match the frequency that you die with the next one that matches that frequency to flow into. So it's like automatic.
Yeah, that's what I think. Because if you think about it, all great people come from some sort of like generational curse background.
Right.
Like all individuals who have overcome great things, they have something within their family or like extended family or whatever it is, or generations before them. Like they have come from something that has not been good. You know what I mean? For lack of a better word. So I feel like that's generally how it works. Usually all great people come from negatives and adversity. So I think of it from a scientific standpoint.
Yeah, there's a cycle, right? Hard times make times make strong men make good times make weak men make hard times. And it's like this 150-year cycle or something, whatever that is. But it's like it's an energy thing. I mean, and it's one will create the next reality, which will create the necessity for a type of person that I hope we're breaking that cycle now. I'm so tired.
I know.
Looking at history, it's like, wow, why do we keep doing this? But
like the egg theory, I feel like you're forced to live every single life until everyone gets it.
Yeah, and you're just we're mirrors to each other. Like I am you, you are me, and we're all just we're living the universe so that you can grow the spirit, right? Grow the soul. Another quick question here. With everything you've researched, so with everything that's happened, everything that's happening with the narratives, I feel like things are shifting again to lockdowns being more connected to climate change now. That's a whole different conversation. But what is your perspective? What do you believe is going to be happening moving forward with everything you've connected dots with?
Okay, so personally, I haven't really been tuned into. Truthfully, I haven't been tuned into a lot of the stuff, so I don't even know what the hell is going on. I've been so out
That's
of
probably
it.
A good thing, honestly.
But, I mean, I don't even know what they're saying on the news or whatever. But I feel like here's what I think. I think in 2024, we're probably obviously gonna. I think that's going to be our last president before 2030. They make it seem like, oh my God, one world government. So there's a book called by Ingersoll Lockwood called The Last President. And the last president's name was Trump. So I think what's going to happen is...
You're talking about the one with that was written in like the late 1800s or something? Like an old book? Yeah.
I think I could be wrong. Either it's 2024 or 2028. I think Trump is going to be the last president before we go into like a one world government. and then all the external people who are living like physical external reality, they're going to be like, we live in a dystopian nightmare, when in reality people like you and I, we understand that it's the same, it's just now like in our face, and you know, we're kind of like still living the same reality. But because we understand that everything is like a one world government, we understand that CBDCs have already been here, digital currencies, all this other stuff, and that we're not going to own anything because we don't own anything. So I feel like in the next, either in 2024 or 2028, I don't know, maybe 2024, I think Trump's going to
This is
become
actually
president.
really, this is so nuts.
We're going to
So
have the craziest bull market, and then we're just going to, everyone's going to fall back asleep because Trump's going to be the president.
I think that's going to be the Swan event. The Swan event is going to be no election. I've asked this question to a few people. I've asked this question to a few people that are really connected and in. You know David Rodriguez? David Rodriguez?
The name sounds familiar.
He's like on Instagram, on YouTube. He's got maybe 500,000 followers in total. He used to be a boxer, and then he started speaking out about it. I interviewed him about this maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. But he said he really doesn't believe that there's going to be an election. And I like I said, I've asked a few different people. Right? Huh?
Was it because of war? Because I heard something about that they might cancel the 2024 election because of war, or not a civil war, but because there's a law apparently that you can't run an election during wartime. I think so, something like that. But that's also what I heard too. That would be devastating to the market. That could be. That's what I'm saying.
So if there is no election, if there's no election. And because they're going to go on the premise that the 2020 election was stolen. And so if there's no election, that means that Trump has been president this whole time. And so he essentially was the last president. It wasn't Biden.
Yeah.
And so if 2020 doesn't happen, man, it's funny. I'm so happy you said that. That's reaffirming to me. It feels really good.
Yeah, because
I'm ready for it.
I think that's going to be the Black Swan event. Nobody's going to see that coming.
Mm-hmm,
and that'll crash the markets like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because everyone right now, they're like, oh, Trump just needs to be president, and bam, bull run. And like, I feel like if that's the case, then maybe what will happen is we get our election like in 2026 or something. I don't know.
Who knows?
Maybe.
Yeah, like a different type of government. Like maybe they'll introduce something different. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I'm just excited to be living right now. Like, imagine, like, this is such an exciting time where
people think that these times suck. You're witnessing. It's kind of like transitioning from like, I don't know if this is the right sequence, but like from the Iron Age to the Gold Age or something like that.
Yes.
You're like living right in the middle of like one age shifting to the other. So how is that not cool? I think that's really cool to witness. And people are like, oh, this time sucks. It sucks to be alive now. It's like, dude, shut up. Like, it's actually cool. You're witnessing. 10 years ago, we didn't even have social media. Instagram came out when I was in high school, and when I was in high school as a senior. We didn't have Instagram. You know what I mean? Like,
I remember Facebook. It's so quick. I remember I was in college when Facebook came out, and I remember it came out, and there was only like a list of like 10 universities that could use it. And we're like, when is my university going to get in there? And then it started being added, and they're like, oh, I can go into Facebook now. Yeah, man, this was so recent, and we just like, man, the compounding,
like overnight.
The compounding of experience. It's like as we experience this stuff, you experience it again, and it just compounds on the previous experience, and it's just like because of the algorithm, it just builds on itself, and here we are. It feels like it's been 100 years that we've been playing with it.
Yeah.
Man, this was such a great conversation, Chris. I really appreciate you. Thank you for making the time again to do this. This was a little longer than the last one, but it was such a good conversation. So good. So last thing I want to ask you, or I want you to give out here for the people listening is, imagine you're standing in front of millions of people. You have a couple minutes to say something and leave them with something. What would you say?
I mean, I would say you're accountable for every little thing that happens and doesn't happen to you. So every little thing that happens to you is your fault, whether it's good or bad. And once you realize that, it makes it a lot easier to change your life. Like, for example, like I said, the whole thing about what happened to me and going in the hospital, that was all my fault. And I could say, oh, things just happen. But once you realize that every good and bad thing that's happened to you is all your 100% accountability and responsibility, then it makes it a lot easier to change your life on whatever it is, whether it's physical, mental, spiritual, financial, whatever it is. So own up to 100% of everything that happens to you and your life will change.
Own your shit.
Exactly.
Stop projecting your shit.
Don't be a victim. Yeah, you can't be a victim to life because everything is all about victimizing yourself.
And that's the choice. I'm so glad you said that. You either become the victim or you become the conqueror of your life.
Yeah.
There's your choice, you know, conquer or victimize yourself. Good stuff, man. This was such a great conversation. Thank you so much again for doing this. Is there something that you want to leave everyone, or a piece of advice, or you want to plug something here at the end? It's up to you.
Not really. I mean, if you want to check out my page is Chris_Giraldo, CHRIS_Giraldo, GIRALDO. And I pretty much post everything. I post content about everything. It could be fitness, conspiracy. Sometimes I try to stay away from traditional conspiracy because I don't want to feed into the lower negative vibration. But
traditional conspiracy. That's the first time I've heard that before.
Yeah, traditional conspiracy. But I also post about crypto, things like that. So it's pretty much everything. I mean, if they like your content, they'll like my content too.
Yes,
so
follow Chris.
We're both on the same page, and
you got such good. Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I think there's like a little bit of a break here. But yeah, follow Chris. Yeah. He's got so much good stuff. He posts on his stories not so often, but when he does, it's good. And I appreciate it so much.
I feel like I do that on purpose too.
Yeah. It's the quality over quantity.
It like resets the algorithm. It resets the algorithm, you know, because a lot of people sometimes they don't see my stuff, and then I take some time off, and then when I post, it's like bam, like all my followers see my stuff, and then it just, you know, I get a lot of views. So I tend to do that sometimes because if you post nonstop all the time, I feel like it's kind of like being a business and you're selling your stuff 24/7. I feel like you devalue the value. I feel like you devalue your content by posting way too much. So I try to like, you know, take a step back and then, you know, educate myself about some stuff and then bam, come out with some new content.
Dude, I need to follow in those footsteps because for a while I was doing quantity and I was trying to like, I can do quantity and quality. It's like, no, man, you got to choose one. You got to go. Yeah. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to do it in a group, in a team that, you know, brings quality, you got to slow it down and really be focused on the point. Good stuff, Chris. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you. Appreciate your time. And like he said, if you guys want to follow him at Chris_Giraldo on Instagram. Love you, brother. Thank you so much. And everyone watching and listening, always remember, gamify your abundance. Love you guys.
Yes, sir.